Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, dear friends. Welcome to the monthly webinar of the Local Government and Municipal Authorities Constituency to the UNFCCC towards the 29th Conference of Parties, COP29, in Baku, November this year. My name is Yunus Arikhan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy, and I will be moderating this session in my capacity as the LGMA focal point as well. As our usual practice, we are offering a couple of seconds for all the participants to settle down, um, and then we will kick off uh, through our agenda. Today, we have really a very dense agenda. It's really now wrapping up all our efforts throughout the year. So we are also happy that we'll have a couple of more colleagues from the LGMA constituency who will be intervening at the appropriate slots to share updates from their side. So we look forward to a very dynamic and interactive session. Um, and, uh, I already notice my colleagues have already been coming up also into this call. That's great. I think we are more or less settled. Um, we can kick off our agenda. So, just again, housekeeping. These sessions are recorded. It's available on our YouTube channel, and you'll receive the links to the presentation and the recording later on. Um, those who would like to contribute to the discussion, we recommend to follow until the end of the presentations, and then we open the floor. But if there's any burning question or issue, you can always type in our chat box or Q&A box so that we can take note of it during the session. Um, so today, as I said, we have a very packed agenda. Therefore, we have slightly adjusted some of the background slides so that we don't lose too much time. There may be colleagues who may be joining us for the first time, so we hope these updates will also help them to be on the same page. But we would like to spend most of our time in the upcoming agenda. So we will go through our joint position. I'm very happy that my colleague Ariel Dekovic, head of communication of ICLE, will be leading this in her capacity as the leader of the work communications working group, but also the drafting committee member of this process. We will hear some updates from New York because our last webinar was middle of September. Of course, the New York City was the most important agenda there. So I'm very happy that our colleagues from GCOM, Asif and Agat, will be joining us as appropriate. We will spend some time on very intense September-October negotiations. So a couple of LGMA colleagues have attended different meetings in different venues. So we will try to hear from them. Then we will focus on our now gradually shaping up COP29 agenda and delegation, uh, as well as our pavilion. And as usual, we will conclude with our updates from the biodiversity community because they have already been now finalizing their preparation for the 8th summit. I'm happy Ingrid is here so that she will take us through. Ingrid, just to let you know, I just added one slide which shows the summit, but you can go to the details of it in terms of the agenda and relevant updates, which is very exciting. And congratulations once again to the whole biodiversity community and our colleagues, ICLE, and then, of course, Regions 4 and all the other partners. So with this, um, we will be starting gradually now. Just to let you know, who are we? The LGMA is the abbreviation for the voice of the towns, cities, metropolitan governments, and regions in the UNFCCC process since 1995. We are engaging in the UNFCCC agenda in terms of shaping the outcomes, setting the action agenda, collaborate with the presidencies, and of course, advance our dialogue with the friends of multi-level action, which are the countries who support our agenda in throughout the UNFCCC across all themes, but also implementation at the national level as well. So the LGMA community is engaged through these kind of webinars monthly. You can go back to the previous monthly sessions. We also have our monthly bulletins, which is also capturing all what we have been achieving. For those core members of the group, we also have a WhatsApp group, and we also have mailings that is updating us internally for more technical level information. These webinars and monthly bulletins are more public level information available on this on to the public domain. Um, our engagement, we are talking about 30 plus years in four phases. There was a moment where we were excited that we are acknowledged as a constituency, but the first 10 years or so was relatively an era where we were not engaged because of the lack of recognition in UNFCCC and Kyoto. With the process to kick off a new climate regime, which was originally planned for Copenhagen, we kicked off our roadmap. It was recognition, engagement, empowerment of local and regional governments. Our efforts have even been accelerated after Copenhagen because we know the multilateral climate action regime is what makes local and regional governments also active and supported. So we did not give up and we supported the efforts. And all these efforts from Cancun to Paris, all these 5 years or 6 years, has beared its fruit. We were recognized in the Paris Agreement preamble with all levels of government. And starting from that moment on, you may have noticed there are so many initiatives nourishing or mushrooming, which was a clear indication that the moment you recognize us, we immediately respond. And our first next step was Glasgow. The term multi-level was first time in the UNFCCC text in the preamble. And through Sharm el Sheikh, we have introduced the concept of urbanization. And in Dubai, we made multi-level action as an operative paragraph in COP28 Emirates consensus. But more importantly, we have initiatives like CHAMP, who is now giving us the power to advance further. So these gives us the fact that, in fact, Dubai was not just one of the many COPs. It was really opening a new era. Of course, the success will depend on how this vision of a more holistic, more ambitious agenda will be reflected in the MDCs, which will be visible in Brazil in 2025. Therefore, we are now in a very delicate 2 years process so that we can influence all these preparations at the national, but also in the international level. So, conference of parties is a process. It's a static process. The country who hosts takes the responsibility for throughout the year. In between, in Bonn in June, they started to hand over gradually to the incoming presidency. We have seen this also in the case of the handover from Emirates to Azerbaijan. But in this last years, we are experiencing another interesting era. For the first time, the three presidencies, Emirates, Azerbaijan, and Brazil, are working under the Troika, which is a collaboration of all the three posts. Um, and that is giving more continuity. We are very, very excited to work with all diversity of leadership from the Azeri presidency. We have seen this in New York City as well. We had previous discussions with the lead negotiators, presidents, champions, and initiatives. So it's a diverse community, and that we are very actively engaged. And they also have created an advisory board which has two local and international leaders as well. We are engaged through this process in three main tracks throughout the year. So COP is the result. I mean, if you do not bring outcomes throughout the year, you don't expect an outcome in COP. So the preparative phase of COP is even more important than the COP itself. So we act on the global arena. There are a lot of processes like G7, G20. We try to make sure that we are there so that we can influence the outcomes, but we know that they have specific procedures which is not necessarily bounded by UN procedures. We are engaged in the UNFCCC process, but also outside UNFCCC, like UN Habitat, like the Environment Assembly, the three Rio Conventions, and the New York Agenda. And we have our own processes that we gather internally to shape up our positions. We convene our climate weeks in the city level or regional level. We organize our own initiatives like Innovate for Cities or Daring Cities. And of course, Urban October will also be an opportunity we will shape more towards to the outcome. We have been concluding the last 100 days. It's almost like 80% is concluded. The remainings are mainly the Urban 20 and G20, which is parallel to to COP. We will discuss more on that one in the next webinar, actually, because our colleagues at T14 UCLG are already advancing on that. We will still check what could be the outcome from G7 ministerials, but we will have also a World Urban Forum in Cairo, which we believe it's still a good opportunity. It's not a negotiation session, but it's still an opportunity to elevate our preparations. Of course, we will attend and we will hear from biodiversity. And after COP, we will still be engaged in Riyadh. So this was a summary, and I am now delighted to announce that our position that we have been working for months has now officially been released with its supplementary annexes. And I'd like to invite my colleague Ariel to share um, any key highlights and of course the endorsement process. Ariel, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eunice. Good morning and good evening to everyone on the call. Wonderful to see you all here. So I have a couple of kind of updates and calls to action when it comes to our joint position. So as Eunice said, we have released this joint position through the work, the very hard work of the drafting committee from the LGMA. Again, huge props to everyone who participated. I think it is a very collaborative document that reflects our constituency very well. So, what do we do now? We have a joint position. So I'm going to put two links in the chat. Uh, so the first is I would ask that everyone here be sure to download the position and read it. The position itself, I'm happy to say that we got this first document that you see here on the left. The joint position itself is very short, so everyone should be able to read it quite quickly and just get the basic outline of the three main asks that we're looking for. Then we have broken out the guidance for the parties into three other documents, and that has the kind of UN specific language that gets really into the nitty gritty of what we're trying to achieve. But and will hopefully be a useful document when it comes to the negotiated outcomes. So we're hoping that this kind of toolkit of our position is really helpful to our constituency as we work to achieve these goals. So that's kind of the next step, and this is of course the hardest part of the work that we're doing. So I think I have two main asks for you here. The first is hopefully easy, that we ask that everyone endorse the position. So you've got the form for endorsement there in the chat. Please submit your endorsement for your organization. You can either endorse with a logo, or we can just put your organization's or entity's name in the list of endorsers as well. So that hopefully is fairly simple call to action for everyone on the call. The more complicated call to action is for you to think about individually how you can help us to advance this position. So if you represent a network, how will you distribute this position to your network of local and regional governments? How can you get this into the hands of delegates who are going to be at COP29, who are working with their national parties now already on the negotiated outcomes, that they understand our position and can bring that to the parties and advocate for it. So that's the question for our networks. If you yourself are a representative from a local or regional government and you want to engage with your national government, we would invite you to do so. And certainly, thinking through what your individual advocacy strategy is going to be for this is kind of the next piece of this. Of course, this will be a part of the work that we're doing collectively, but as a constituency, I think it's incumbent on every uh, participant in the constituency to think through your individual role in advancing the position. Um, so I'm happy to answer questions on this. Of course, I'll be in contact with the comms, the communications representatives that we have contact with through the constituency. But if you yourself also have communications folks who you would like us to reach out to and coordinate with, I would love to get those contacts as well. So with that, I will turn things back over to Eunice and or answer any questions if there are any. And of course, I'll be on for the rest of the call as well.
Thank you, Ariel, and all colleagues who contributed in this process. I really liked the condensed version and then expansion because this is exactly the type of the notion that it's not anymore just asking for recognition. It's really to formulate how we will be engaged in all these issues from loss and damage to finance, from adaptation indicators to capacity building. So it's a huge task that we should be aware and be prepared. So that really reflects that we are well ready for this new era that we have more responsibility and therefore we are delivering more. So happy to have further endorsements shaping up. It would be really a good demonstration of our unity and diversity. So and happy if there are questions coming up as well. I already see from Marina. Maybe we can immediately. Uh, she's asking whether we would like to. There is a way to see the live tracker of endorsements. You want to respond to that?
I think we can probably share. Uh, I mean, Eunice, I look to you maybe for some guidance. I can tell you right now, we have 10 endorsers plus all of the organizations who help to write the position. So if you're just looking for numbers, Marina, that's where we're at. It is a variety of networks and also individual jurisdictions in that number.
Maybe we can also use our LGMA tracker that
Hmm.
certain moment we can include a section there and people
Great.
can also follow it because we really this will be in the agenda on the COP29 preparations. We want to make sure that we LGMA tracker is also efficiently used. So let's discuss what options. Um, so Ole is from KS Norway a long time. He was referring that he had received an error on the online rolling sheet endorsement sheet. Ole, maybe you can reach out directly to Ariel. Ariel, you can type your email address or an email address we will use. You can also always send it to lgma@icle.org. We can always incorporate this. Ole, and sorry if this problem still persists. Ariel, any point on that?
So Ola, maybe you can just clarify, you tried this now and it didn't work because I think we did have it set incorrectly for access, but now it's been updated. So if you can just clarify um and that it's the link to the form that you're talking about. Um, but also happy to take it offline,
Yeah,
Ola. Yeah.
we can
And if
follow up with
anyone
all.
else has a problem with with either
Yeah.
of those links, please let us know in the chat so we know how widespread the issue is. Thank you.
I see comments from our colleagues from Kisumu. Frederick, you have been joining us. Thanks for your interest. I think we should be very happy to have to collaborate with you, especially through our colleagues in the Africa and other African networks. I know you have all expressed interest for the pavilion as well, but let's follow up in a bilateral manner how we can work together. And thanks for your interest and your work and commitment. Okay, let's proceed for our agenda. Yes, Climate Week was an important moment. It was, of course, preceded by the Summit of the Future, which had some sort of a combination, but we will discuss more on that. The Summit of the Future outcomes through our collaboration with UCLD, especially uh, to strengthen the paragraph on local governments. But we will now focus on Climate Week. There was, of course, an immense mobilization. For us, there were two important sessions. One is the first ever high-level political dialogue under the CHAMP, which is one of the six commitments, and we even have seen new endorsers and existing endorsers. And then there was also an initiative by the COP29 presidency, which is aiming to bridge the previous initiatives like Surge and CHAMP to Baku and then to Brazil. But especially on the champ dialogue, I'm happy that Agat Çavuşoğlu from GCOM is with us, especially to take us through the dialogue, what was happened, and how things are moving in the champ. Agat, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Yunus. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. It's really nice to join you this morning to discuss CHAMP activities at New York. Before I start, I want to congratulate everyone in the drafting committee for developing the COP29 position, and a particular thanks to ICLE as well for the wonderful layout that you have done for this position and its annexes. I think it's fantastic, and we'll be very, very proud at GCOM to support the COP29 LGMA position. But now on to the order of business I've been invited to discuss. As Yunus already mentioned, there were some really critical activities around CHAMP in New York. I want to start by speaking about a breakfast meeting that was held on the 23rd in the morning. This was organized in collaboration between GCOM, C40, and a whole host of organizations that support the CHAMP coalition. It was designed as a closed-door meeting that brought together cities, national governments, regional governments, as well as some high-level expert speakers in climate diplomacy and climate governance in general. The objective of this meeting really was because as supporters of CHAMP and of the 72 national governments that have signed on to CHAMP, it is our mission as city and subnational networks to ensure the national governments are held accountable to the commitment that they made at COP28, and to make sure that cities and regions around the world understand the opportunity that represents the CHAMP commitment and what it means that their national governments have signed on to CHAMP, what support, what dialogue, and what partnerships could they expect as a result of their national government signing on to CHAMP. So this really was the essence of that meeting. We wanted to ensure any and all subnational governments participating in New York and any CHAMP endorsers or candidates for endorsements could be brought together in this meeting where we really explained the CHAMP commitment, where we went into some examples and best practices that have seen subnational and national governments work together to set targets, to deliver action plans, and to drive more funding to city and regional climate action. So it really was a little bit of a CHAMP masterclass, if you'd like. I think everyone walked away feeling really empowered, having really understood what the opportunity of CHAMP is, and with the tools to engage in bilateral dialogues with their national governments to identify how these commitments to CHAMP can translate into partnerships over policies, over projects, or over funding for local climate action. We had 4 mayors and 13 subnational leaders. So those were governors, deputy first ministers, and premiers. All of these subnational leaders came from diverse geographies. We had South Africa, who is a potential future endorser. It's a big priority of us to have South Africa endorse CHAMP. There was also Brazil, USA, the Republic of Korea, Mexico, and Spain. We also had over 15 partners in the room, supporting partners, NGOs, international organizations, multilateral development banks, development agencies that are all on the sideline of CHAMP, but are, like us, supportive of this mission, and ready to help both the national governments and the cities and regions that could benefit from the CHAMP initiative. So this was on September 23rd. We walked away thinking that it was really successful. It was really appreciated by all the participants. We also had the United Nations Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Selwyn Hart, as well as Laurence Tubiana, that both spoke to the audience, and they were really both super helpful in putting in perspective how much the CHAMP model of collaboration can help accelerate action in the COP process and for the world globally. So this is definitely a format of events that we're going to want to replicate, and we're already thinking about how to have a similar type meeting at U20 in November in Rio and at COP29 in Baku. The following day from this was the high-level political dialogue, which we don't have an image on the slide here, but the World Resource Institute, WRI, helped organize it on behalf of COP28 and Bloomberg Philanthropies, who are the sponsors of CHAMP. And this was the official get-together meeting that all the 72 endorsers of CHAMP agreed to have. They agreed to have two of these meetings, one this year, one next year. And they're really important milestones to keep the momentum going. There were some mayors paired with their national governments at this high-level political dialogue. And it was great, again, to keep the national governments accountable to what they've committed to. But also we had some countries, for example, the pair from Morocco, including Mayor Sifiani of Chefchaouen, that could already speak to the rest of their peers, to the other national governments, about how they are approaching the Moroccan CHAMP commitment and what projects they are seeking to develop together. I'm sure there will be a summary of this meeting, and I would ensure that it can be shared with the LGMA. And finally, I will just say that it was obviously fantastic that against the backdrop of all of this, two new endorsements were announced. Firstly, Finland joined on the 23rd of September, and we have this wonderful little snippet here on the slide. Mayor Minna Arve of Turku was obviously instrumental in this. And then the UK, the United Kingdom, also endorsed a couple of days later, which is, again, really a sign that CHAMP isn't losing speed. It is an attractive and appealing coalition of trailblazers and leaders, and more national governments want to join it. So my parting words to this whole group, to the LGMA today, is everyone is welcome to join in this effort of promoting CHAMP, of encouraging new endorsers to join CHAMP, and of supporting cities engage with their national governments. At GCOM and C40 and with colleagues from ICLEI through the LGMA, we've been able to develop a host of resources that are available in many languages. And I want to make sure everyone in the LGMA is empowered with these resources. So we will be holding between now and COP29, one or two specific gatherings, specific breakout meetings for anyone in this group that's interested in better understanding CHAMP, better understanding the resources available, and better understanding how, like us, as supporters of CHAMP, anyone can get involved to promoting this very important initiative. I will also flag that one thing we'd love to do is issue a letter from Gregor Robertson, who's Special Envoy for Cities and CHAMP, to the Troika of Presidencies, which Yunus has already mentioned is a fantastic innovation. We really want to keep on all three of their radars and top of their priorities, that CHAMP has a lifespan that goes all the way to COP30 and even beyond. So we will be sharing a draft with the LGMA, and anyone willing to endorse and put their support on the letter would be welcome to it. And with that, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Over to you, Yunus.
Thanks, Ararat, and congratulations for all the hard work done by the partners, friends of Champ, and of course, most of this also goes to the Champ endorsers for their continuity of their commitment and welcoming new ones. And I think this proposal to speed up the references and recognition on the way to Baku is extremely helpful. I think we enjoyed it last year, this kind of LGMA letters, so we'll work with you, and we will still come back with additional options. Now I want to continue because as we have celebrated our initiatives, we are all aware we are still in the UNFCCC space, which means parties are going on several technical meetings, attending several topics, focusing on several topics, and there are either workshops, dialogues, different terminologies, but these are negotiation sessions, which means discussions there are taking note and even feeding into the drafting of the decisions. So there were numerous meetings over the year. Unfortunately, it's also a question of how we can track all these because all of us are having limited capacities. Even the UNFCCC negotiator secretary is suffering a lot from this clutter of meetings. No one is able to attend fully. But the last couple of days and weeks was very interesting because we had enjoyed, first of all, several meetings were hosted in Baku, and in Egypt, in Sharm el Sheikh, the UNSC secretary made a very nice deal with the Egyptian government to align a couple of meetings back to back so that those who attend one of them can easily extend their duration and attend the others. And of course, they have to be backed up with appropriate information. And these concluded with a pre-COP in Baku. So I'm very delighted. First of all, in those 5 meetings, we had LGMA representative on site or virtually. Um, I'd like to invite one by one, and I would conclude in the third one on the mitigation work program. It has some specialities. So let's start with Madeline from C40, who followed the loss and damage third board meeting. By the way, is Madeline on the line? I'm not sure now.
Yes, she is.
Perfect. Madeline, good. Let's start with you. It's just chronological order as well, because that was one of the earliest meetings. Madeline, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eunice, and huge thanks to Eunice for all his effort in coordinating us to be so present at these negotiations. As many people will know, at COP28, the parties agreed that it was necessary to have a fund for responding to loss and damage. This has been many years coming and lots of advocacy from global South countries and activists. The fund will be hosted by the country of the Philippines, and it will be managed by the World Bank. And a board has been established, which is members of the parties to the UNFCCC, to work out all the details for the fund. And they are in their third meeting, and this is the meeting I attended in Baku. As a new fund, and as many people will be aware from other funds like the GCF and others, the GEF, all the decisions that are taken at the start about who will receive funding, what it will be available for, and so forth, really determine how accessible this fund is going to be to cities. And we know that for many funds, this has often been a blind spot and a real challenge for local governments and cities to access funding. So our presence here is very important to make the case for access to local governments and to make sure the type of funding is responsive to the needs of local governments and local communities. We are making progress, but there is a long way to go. There are several more meetings coming up of the board, and at each meeting of the board, they will make decisions on different parts of the operation. What the good news is that we've received very positive feedback from many national government members to say that the idea of localizing funding, bringing it to the level that really understands the issues and can respond quickly, is a priority for the board. And so we will keep pushing on that. Upcoming meetings will be in the Philippines in December and April next year. And we're looking forward to continuing to engage on behalf of LGMA and with colleagues UCLG and others. Thank you, Eunice.
Madeline, thanks a lot, especially for you and CLG colleagues who are leading the working group on loss and damage response funds. We are all aware now terminologies are important. Now it's officially adopted as local and loss and damage response funds. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is also, as you have mentioned, a new director from Senegal, which we are hearing that he is very also accessible and open for us. Obviously, we have started with a very positive starting point for the loss and damage fund because we have this direct subnational access in the paragraphs of the decision to establish. But we have seen some ups and downs in the negotiations. So there is differentiation about the observers. So that's what we are struggling with. But it's good that Philippines is there because we have several leaders like Mayor Abibinay from Makati and Mayor Josephine Belmonte, that they are already involved a lot. And I think we will also look forward to their engagement, especially at the meeting in Philippines and others. So I also would suggest when we discuss about the biodiversity COP, I know there's an event prepared by our colleagues from UCLG. They can also mention the connection between these two. And obviously, this is really a work in progress. It's good that the last meeting will be after COP so that any outcomes, including our announcements for this city climate, city guarantee fund, that will be one of the outcomes over 20, can still be then relevant to the fourth meeting. So again, exciting moments and well done to the whole working group and Madeline, and we'll forward to you. We will continue this discussion. So next is the Just Transition Work Program. It is also an initiative that came from Sharm el Sheikh, and it's work in progress. The first meetings was held in Dubai. Officially, it kicked off in Dubai, but it's of course a legacy from a number of years. Jasmine and Marta was there, and Marta will report on behalf of our LGMA from C40. Marta, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Yunus, for providing us the space and for supporting us in this process. I will just maybe note that the Just Transition Work Program is the first UNFCCC program solely dedicated to just transition, both on the design and the implementation stages. And it really has the mandate to be a space for knowledge sharing and best practice sharing between parties. And as Yunus also previously noted, has the mandate to provide recommendations to parties at COP. We were very much pleased to join this second dialogue in Sharm. I will also just note that my colleague Jasmine joined the first dialogue in Bonn this year, and we have been engaging on behalf of the LGMA constituency through written submissions, elevating the role cities and subnational governments play in implementing and designing just transition. The discussions in Sharm were very rich. I must say, I think that's notably thanks to a very interactive format that the UNFCCC and the International Labour Organization designed for this work program and for this dialogue. And I think we were able to demonstrate the key role cities and subnational governments play in the implementation and the design of just transition programs and initiatives, and the role they play as key partners for national governments. We were very glad to see that this was very much echoed in the interventions of many of the national governments. And I think what really helped us hone in on this message was sharing case studies of tangible just transition program implementation and design. And I think this really helped us make the case with national governments and help them understand that cities and subnationals are the ones who are the closest to our citizens, and to workers are the ones who have the understanding of local dynamics and vulnerabilities, and therefore they are the ones to be those who are the key partners. In terms of the next steps, we are waiting to see the second dialogue informal summary and hoping that our asks are being reflected there. We also hope to see these asks being reflected in the final report and the COP decision. I may also note that Just Transition Work Program and similar asks were added into the broader LGMA statement. So thank you very much, Ariel and Yunus, for facilitating that. I'm happy to address any questions later if we have a little bit more time. Thank you.
Excellent, Marta. And of course, again, this is also a work in progress because the next ministerial will be during COP in Baku on the 18th. So we will see how we will be positioning our passionate leaders on site because it will be in-person meeting. And that's exactly as you mentioned, Marta, the reason why our position this year is even more expanded because any leaders who are attending can benefit from our position and add their experience as well. So another session was in Sharm a couple of days later. Marta, Jasmine, and I left, but it was this time a focus on resilience adaptation indicators. And our colleagues, Heloise, supported Salma Sabur from Climate Heritage Network. Unfortunately, Salma is not available today as well as Heloise. I know they have been also working a lot. In the afternoon, we'll hear more. But it's important because in the adaptation, we are even more stronger because in the Paris Agreement, local and subnational recognized in the adaptation. In the Emirates consensus, there's around 9 paragraphs on adaptation. So it's an area that we are strong and we are very happy that we can follow it up. So let's skip this for the moment, but now I'll come to the pre-COP. So these were technical meetings at negotiator level, and pre-COP is a practice that one month before the ministers come together and discuss potential issues that may be challenging so that they try to give guidance in advance to their negotiators. This year it was hosted in Baku. Our colleagues Firdaus Usudium from UCLG and Amelie Dirman from GCOM both attended on behalf of LGMA. It was a unique experience. I will not comment now, but I will comment. I will invite them to intervene. I think both Amelie and Firdaus are here on the line, isn't it? So I will leave it up to you how you'd like to share. And thanks for your, once again, participation and presence here.
Hello, Yunus. Hello, everyone. Hello, Amelia. Good to see you again. And thank you. I feel really, I'm feeling really thrilled by having all this sharing throughout the LGMA with the different implications. Really, we feel really the involvement of all the networks toward the same causes, and this is really excellent. Thank you, Yunus, for this excellent cooperation and collaboration with all. Yeah, so this experience with Baku was really really interesting. Let's put it this way. First, we were not really allowed to join the breakout sessions where negotiations were happening. So we made we had a meeting with the COP presidency asking for to open the doors for local government to join the negotiations and consultations. So we didn't have any answer, but next day we in the plenary, so we were not able to join, neither Amelia, neither myself. So, but next to this, we were invited to the session on the Troika, the mission to keep the 1.5 into reach, and that was really interesting because we can see that the UAE momentum is being kept. However, the ambition is not really there in Baku. And this, I think we need to know it, all of us. We didn't feel. I think Amelia will be bringing her own feelings after my words, but we didn't feel that there was a real ambition for Baku. There is a lot of expectation towards Belém, and this makes us a little bit afraid because when we put all the expectations on one only event, disappointment is next to it. So yeah, not that good feeling. But however, they were announcing to have big launchings during the ministerial on the 20th. We didn't know what it was. They wanted to make of it a surprise. I had the feeling that there is still room for improving the ambition in COP, but here in the pre-COP, ambition was not really there. We were listening to the countries talking. Only 2 of them were mentioning the cities, Indonesia and Marshall Islands. But really, we had also the south of the world asking for loss and damage to be stronger, to be really a tool to recover what has been lost because of the different conditions between north and south, but not really heard by the north. And the north is really into the elections, most of them, and not pushing too high the target. So this is a little bit how it went. So talking about what the LGMA, our statement, we did focus it on the multi-level dialogue and action as in continuity of the UAE consensus, of course, on the CHAMP initiative, of course, and also about making a shift in the global financial architecture to have more finance for sustainable urbanization and climate action. Saying that, we also pressed for a non-market approach in the Article 6, but also regarding the little bit mitigation, because we needed to be more taking into account the resources and the local resources and local conditions of the LDCs and LMDCs. And the third critical point was asking for loss and damage to be recognized as a third pillar in climate action. And this was something we did hear the countries, especially from LMDCs, asking the same thing. So in that point, we were aligned with many of the parties from the Global South. That's it from my side. Of course, asking for UNFCCC to integrate more automatically local government in the climate process. But I will leave, if you allow me, I will leave the floor to Amelia to complete her own feelings and thank you, Amelia, for a great mission together.
Thanks so much, Firdaus. Yeah, and yeah, it was great to be in Baku on behalf of the LGMA, and thank you so much to everyone that put together the positions that enabled us to have those conversations and make that intervention. I think just agree with everything you've said, Firdaus, in just addition quickly to just note the different breakout sessions that were the kind of areas that governments were discussing, which might be, as Eunice alluded to, those sort of sticking points. So broadly, those who are on mitigation, the NCQG, adaptation, and the sort of the carbon credits conversation. So I think just on mitigation, I think the political focus feels more on COP30, as Firdaus mentioned, and I think for COP29, there's more of a desire to share best practices on mitigation. I think for our constituency, that means, you know, evidencing all of the amazing work that Cities and Regions is already doing will be really helpful during COP29, but just to kind of manage expectations around what might be achieved there. On the NCQG, it was great to hear trillions, not billions, discussed. So that was really reassuring. And I think that's where a lot of the political capital is being expended. On adaptation, clearly there's a real keenness to get the finance in place for this and on loss and damage, as Firdaus mentioned, and similar to what Madeline had said as well. And then lastly, yeah, there was a long conversation about carbon markets and credits, and it really feels like that's something that the Azerbaijani presidency is keen to land. So I'm not sure if that's within anyone's kind of day-to-day work, but wanted to flag that one too. But yeah, it was great to go, and thanks all.
Excellent to both of you, and thanks for your dedication and patience to be invited in a meeting which we are not allowed in. But I think it was a worthwhile effort, and it's true. In the previous years, for example, in Copenhagen and Petersburg, this kind of ministers are much more open. But in the pre-COPs, both in the Abu Dhabi, we also had the same fate that we were not allowed. But I think we will get progress. We will hope that it will be much better in Brazil, hoping the legacy of Brazil being more open, but that was a worthwhile effort. Just to conclude, I will focus on the mitigation work program, but for other colleagues, be aware, for all our partners who were involved in the meeting, we're capturing their notes and we will make them, some of them, the information that will be made publicly, it will be on our LGMA website, and they are compiling their text so that we can track them also on our documents and mailers and bulletins as well. So the mitigation program, I purposefully kept it at the end. One of the reasons is that it is really focused solely on urban systems. So all the other topics you may have noticed, they are talking about all about these issues about just transition, loss and damage, resilience, but it's all, be it business, be it farmers, be it national governments. But the mitigation work program, since the beginning of this year, the third dialogue in Bonn was focusing on buildings, which is a very topic close to our heart. And the second one on urban systems is directly related to us. But the speakers, the main participants were the parties. So it was not just cities talking to each other or cities talking to the nations. Just on the contrary, nations were talking about what were they doing on urban system. And that is particularly a really change in the mindset and the landscape, because the last time such a discussion was held was in 2013 in Warsaw. There was this AWG workshops on the way for raising ambition towards Paris Agreement, and we had a historic urbanization workshop. And that moment, 10 years ago, the atmosphere was really difficult. A lot of nations were trying to avoid a discussion on cities, but things have changed a lot. So I was very happy. I was in the session in 2013, a keynote in the opening, and here I was the facilitator, one of the breakout groups. I can definitely see almost 179 degrees, let's say, if it's not 180 degrees, 79 degrees of positive shift, that parties are now from north and south positively and proudly talking about how they are working, how they are investing in urbanization, urban development, and they're working with the different governance models in each country. So in that regard, it is a UNFCCC party-driven process, but I'm very happy. Firdaus was invited on behalf of LGMA to be a keynote in the opening plenary. She was a resource person and one of the three workout groups. I was facilitator as LGMA focal point in one of those. Jasmine and Marta was intervening as a participant. And Nicolas Yu, our friend, dear friend from Guangzhou, he was a key note in the second day on Solutions Hub, which was impressive to speak about how a direct experience in a global south perspective, they can show how local regional governments are rolling out all these solutions, especially focused on mitigation. So therefore, this was really impressive and very engaged and very dynamic. There was a pitch hub, which was parties were presenting their initiatives. We are even expecting some of those interactions may even come up with some new endorsers to CHAMP, because there was really a nice feedback. But more importantly, this meeting now will meet at a contact group in Baku. And this group is mandated to produce a result. In last year, they produced a paragraph on road transport because they were focusing on road transport. So we were also emphasizing that the mitigation work program, the 20th of November Urbanization Day, and especially the discussion on Article 6.8, the non-market approaches. If we can make the connection between all these three, this mitigation work program can really be introducing a huge support. And that was the point. Last year, as LGMA, we played a similar role. We had the local climate action summit at the beginning, then there was this ministerial, and then we had the pavilion and our advocacy effort. So we can expect a similar but a bit differentiated mechanism as well. So that's my report from Sharm el-Sheikh. I know we are really running out of time, so let's go a bit faster. The good news, we have our pavilion now advancing 100 meters square. I'd like to invite my colleague Johanna to briefly, shortly share where we are in the pavilion planning.
Great, thanks so much, Yunus. And yes, I'll make this short. What we just wanted to show you here today is that we are progressing with the Pavilion program, and we wanted to reassure you that much as with previous years, we'll have a very full program, so events running from morning to afternoon. This, of course, is very high level, but hopefully by next week, we'll be able to share a little bit more detail and really show you the thematic diversity that we'll have. On the right-hand side there, you can also see our co-convener is UN Habitat once again. So we're really happy to be collaborating with them again this year. We also have two co-hosts. So the Azerbaijan State Committee on Urban Planning and Architecture, or SCUPA, and the Zero Waste Foundation. And then there at the bottom, you also see a list of partners that we're in consultations with. So I think this already shows you a little bit of the diversity. And like I said, hopefully we'll show you a more extensive program very, very soon. Anything else, Eunice?
That was great. And Joanna, thanks a lot. And thanks for all the partners. It's just one important point, especially for colleagues who were not able to position an event on their own, because we are all aware this is a commercial space. We really have to take care of the financial aspect, but we are especially the sessions that those partners that you're seeing here and the sessions that ICLE UN Habitat will host will make sure that we will have relevant partners, even though they cannot contribute, they can still have their voices in this pavilion, and there will be numerous opportunities. And this year, we even have nice initiatives like an NDC workshop in the first and second week, or a discussion on town hall COPs, which will be the next agenda item in the next couple of minutes. Just to remember, we are now in the COP mode. We are preparing for our presence. We know that this year it will be even more in person. We are talking about blue zone and green zone. In the blue zone, we will, of course, map all the thematic interventions that we'll show shortly. There's this World Climate Action Summit, but there will be no Climate Action Summit this year. However, the presidency, Azerbaijan, is inviting parties at the heads of state level to convene side events. So there are efforts. We know UN Habitat and Azerbaijan presidency is trying to ensure at least 2 heads of state to host a session on Baku urban continuum for climate action. If this can happen, this will really elevate our profile of our initiatives on urbanization, multi-level action. Throughout the 2 weeks, there will be Marrakesh partnership and climate action agenda through thematic events. And this may be slightly different than the presidency initiatives. So it's okay. That's the regular practice. There is a lot of convergence, but there are some differentiations. For example, the third Climate and Urban Ministerial, or Urbanization and Climate Ministerial, is in fact an initiative of COP presidency. It is still not an official Marrakesh partnership agenda. It is still not a UNFCCC agenda, but it's a special event of the presidency. But this is a very powerful, and we are very happy this year it's even more expanded. For 2 full weeks, we will have the home as our base camp, and it will be the space where we have daily briefings and other events. Other pavilions, we know this year a number of pavilions are shrinked or even canceled, so therefore having multi-level action pavilions is important, and we have UNFCCC side events. The presidency green zone is also active, and in the hotels in Baku, you will have a lot of meetings as well. This is what it will look like, a full list of our agendas. This is the screenshot from our LGMA tracker. I encourage, once again, just like Ariel's point, to populate the information. We hope today we may have more updates, especially the events that you are leading, the delegations you are mobilizing. Make sure that their names are there so that then we can see who is doing what and where, and make sure it is coordinated. And final words for the climate agenda, and we'll go to the biodiversity agenda, is that we are discussing that it's as you have seen it, the new world is being designed with the Emirates consensus, and we are trying to make sure that it's a year-round engagement is happening from the community level up to the UNFCCC, including CHAMP in the intermediate as a mechanism for those endorsements, but still a multi-level action, but as well as town hall COPs, which is an opportunity that we can bring debate to the community level, to the street level, and then making this connected to the NDCs and to the UNFCCC via LGMA. Tomorrow, as a closing event of the Daring Cities, we'll have a bit more details on these efforts. So we encourage you to join us as well. With this, I would like to now give the floor to Ingrid, who will be particularly sharing us updates from the biodiversity COP16 in Cali. Ingrid, are you still here? I hope you still have your.
I am.
We haven't exhausted your patience.
No, not a problem. I'm still here. So I'm going to be very quick. Really just to say that we have a very packed program. We're looking very forward to going to Cali. Our summit is taking place on the 26th, and it's going to be a long day, but a fantastic day. We have over 1,200 registrations. We've been given a bigger room, and we're actually holding our summit in the plenary room. So all stations go. We've got sessions on the COP priorities around partnering for investment, around progress on implementation and making peace with nature. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers. We've got some really amazing special announcements. So it's going to be a really marvelous day for those that are lucky enough to join us. The day before, on the 25th, we already have 2 events. The one is a cities event in the morning in Place Quebec, which is funded. It's the sort of major group hub, and it is called Place Quebec. And there we're focusing on 3 biodiverse regions and cities in that area. We're focusing on Africa, Amazon, and China. And then in the evening, we have the closed event for mayors and governors prior to the summit. There are several other events. There are CBD side events that are profiling and showcasing cities. There's the associated events, the Mayor's Forum on Urban Nature and Biodiversity, which is the inaugural meeting, and that's taking place on the morning of the 27th. The CBD's 2 advisory committees are convening, and there is a very full program around the 2 weeks of the COP in the major group hub in Place Quebec. And there's a lot of action going to happen there. There's an ICLES Day, there's a Regions 4 Day, there's a range of stakeholders and cities and subnational governments that are organizing their own events in that hub as well. I will share our website link for everybody who's interested. But Eunice, I thought I would just say a few things about the negotiation process. It is, there's a lot of interest in this COP. The SBI meeting is already taking place this week. And the key, I mean, the priorities I have mentioned are the COP, but the key in our discussions with the various parties, it's clear that the key issues are going to be around resource mobilization. Those of you that were at COP15 will remember that there was almost a lockout as a result of this, which was then broken at the 99th hour. And it has to do with the financing mechanism, with the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, the flow of finances, et cetera, and there's going to be a lot of very hot and heated discussions around that. The other 2 items are really items that are not relevant to the mandate of subnational and local governments. These are the DSI, the digital sequencing information, and the access and benefit sharing related to species. From our major groups perspective, we are interested in a number of items. Obviously, the financial resource mobilization one, but then very specifically also monitoring, reporting, planning, and review. The biodiversity mainstreaming one, which is also quite contentious. And then there are items around specifically biodiversity and health, biodiversity and climate change. And then there's a few items that are more sort of around the process and operational aspects. So it looks at the efficacy of the convention and its frameworks, one around linkages with other conventions, including UNFCCC, but also obviously UNCCD and various other MEAs that speak directly to biodiversity and its related topics. So in short, that's just the nutshell picture. Besides the very busy program of side events, etc. In the blue zone, there is also a green zone, which is organized by the government of Colombia. And then from the major group perspective, we will have, during the actual day of the negotiations, we'll have just short updates, briefings in our major group room, because as you know, the CBD has given a voice and a seat to the various major groups, and the major group on subnational governments and local governments is represented by their two advisory committees. ICLEI CBC coordinates the one on cities, so we lead from that perspective, and then the government of Quebec and Regions 4 coordinates from subnational governments, their subcommittee, so they lead on that side. And I think I'm going to leave it at that because I'm aware we're way over time already. Thanks, Eunice.
Thank you, Ingrid. Congratulations once again. As you can imagine, especially to our colleagues in the climate community, the CBD process itself is I must confess, much more open for inclusiveness and opportunities that are offered to our constituency. So it's a great achievement. We hope we can have more of these also in the climate, and there may be some good practices coming from climate as well. So that's another example of this summit evolving in this way. Maybe it's important to note that Colombia is especially an important country because they're also pushing a lot on the fossil fuel transition in the climate negotiations. And you all know Susana Mohamed, a former Environment Secretary of Bogota, plus Gustavo Pedro, former mayor of Bogota, are both in the leadership of Colombian government. So in the initiatives in Baku and afterwards, and Colombia is very active in CHAMP. So we are maybe able to see much more connectivity from biodiversity, nature agenda to climate, vice versa. And we hope that this will also feed into the Riyadh in the next couple of months afterwards. Very briefly, Firdaus, our loss and damage community from climate is also planning some additional events in Cali. Maybe hear from you, and then we will conclude this round.
Thank you, Yunus. Just a quick word. First, we would like to thank Ingrid and Tim for all the support that is given on behalf of the LGMA and with the global mandate that ICLEI Africa has on biodiversity. What we are bringing there is a session on loss and damage on behalf of the LGMA, where we are asking each of the networks that are part of the working group to have a political representative to talk on the loss and damage with the components of biodiversity and nature, and how can we monitor these nature components of loss and damage. And therefore, we will be having an event on the 13th of October. It is really, really at the end, but we are happy to have it though, because many of our membership have been asking for that, and many of our interlocutors as well. So here it goes. All welcome to the session, and thank you again to ICLEI Africa for the support. Thank you.
Thanks, Firdaus. Maybe I can just mention the other event. I sent you an email last night. That's the biodiversity emergency one as part of the Burma Day. So there's the two events also.
Excellent. It will be really good because 2 days after we'll go to Cairo, and then we'll go to after concluding from Cali, we'll go to Cairo first. Maybe not the same people, but same institutions. They will have different representatives in Cairo, and then we will all feed to Baku. I thank you all. I'm sorry that we have exceeded a bit more than what we have originally asked for, but I think it was worthwhile effort. We will continue this consultation in the afternoon, and you will receive the links. I will once again key takeaways. Please update your information in LGMA tracker, and please mobilize your network and members for LGMA position endorsement. And more to come later on. Our bulletin will come on the 30th of October. My colleague Matteo will share with you call for inputs, and we'll stay tuned for additional updates. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.